Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Oceana. I'm glad that you're here. Today I'm going to be recommending some secular and adult fiction, specific books, and just like general authors as well. So these do not have anything Christian to do with them. Normally my channel is a lot of Christian recommendations, but I wanted to share some of the non-Christian books and authors that I do also like for various reasons. So I will tell you about that. All of these are clean, and language is the biggest thing that like I'm more okay with rather than like sexual content. That's where I'm not okay. So all of these will be clean in that sense, but in terms of language, I'll let you know like how much is in each book, because you know, most adult fiction has some bit of language in it. Anyway, okay, the number one secular fiction author that I really enjoy is Katherine Center. I have loved all of the books that I've read from her. She writes really deep stories that go below the surface of human emotions, and she tends to like tackle a certain aspect of life that is in just such a beautiful way by showing like the growth and the character development of the main characters while including a love story in them, and that's what I love. So a lot of her main characters, well, all of them are women, and then you do sometimes get the perspective of the guy character, but not always. It is usually in the girl's perspective, but then there is a guy love interest. And just the topics that she talks about in terms of like finding the will to live and forgiveness and purpose, it's fascinating to me because there is a very like spiritual aspect to it, but it's not Christian, and it's not like spiritual in the sense of like what you might be thinking, but just like it could so easily be turned into a Christian story if there was faith involved as well. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess. Her books are clean. There's usually like one more like slightly detailed makeout scene, and maybe a closed door scene, and then it varies how much language is in her books. And because the story is such a quality story, I'm able to overlook the language. So it is what it is. If you know, it depends, you know, what your tolerance is. Sometimes you just have to read to find out, but just so you know. So picking a favorite book by her that I would recommend, I have to recommend Happiness for Beginners. This is my first book that I ever read by her, and I was just so blown away. The funny thing is, this book has the strongest, the most detailed makeout scene of all the books that I've read from her. So weird that it's my favorite, but because like after it happened at the beginning, and after that it like never happened again, and it was mainly about this woman's discovery of herself and like just finding her strength again, and then such a beautiful love story at the same time. I love it. I love the story, and I would read it again. I would like to read all of her books eventually. There are a couple that I haven't read, and then I have not read her newest release yet either, but I would really love to. But yeah, that's the first author that she just works for me. I don't know, just the combination of the level of content with the storytelling, it is just enough where I love the storytelling so much that I overlook a lot of the other things that I wouldn't overlook in like a poorly told story. Okay, I'm gonna mention one other author, and then I'm gonna just stick with books after that. So Charles Martin, he technically, like, he's a Christian, and I think he's published by Thomas Nelson, but none of his books are overtly Christian. I feel like only Christians would notice the Christian themes in them. He like throws in a preacher as a character here and there, and like his books have really strong morality. They're completely clean, no language, no anything with relationships, but they're told with such like, I don't know, he's really good at writing a good story and then like kind of shining the light of Jesus in a very indirect way, I guess. So I wouldn't necessarily consider him Christian fiction. But I guess I can't say he's secular either. But either way, I would recommend him if you don't care about Christianity, if you aren't a Christian and you don't like Christian fiction, he is a great one because it does not beat you over the head in any way. He'll just like use kind of side characters. Some books have more faith than others. So like my favorite book by him is Long Way Gone, and this has probably the most faith that I've ever read in any of his books. There's still quite a few books that I've never read by him, but Long Way Gone had the most, and I would say of the ones that I've read, The Mountain Between Us, I would say has the least amount, or maybe Unwritten as well. But yeah, I just would recommend him. If secular fiction is what you're looking for, he's a good one. Plus it's totally clean and no language, which is really nice. Okay, now on to just the random fiction that truly has nothing to do with Christianity, but I'll explain myself. So The Light Between Oceans by M.L. Stedman. I enjoyed it because it was so fascinating. This was really popular a while ago, so maybe a lot of you have read it by now, but it was clean, and I don't remember if there's any language in it. If I finished a book, the language didn't bother me enough to DNF it. So, I mean, that doesn't really help you, because like to know my gauge of like language tolerance, it's so subjective. So anyways, but you can figure that out for yourself. But The Light Between Oceans is about this couple who work at a lighthouse and they can't get pregnant, and the wife is very distraught over it. She's super depressed, and it's really, really sad. And yeah, it's really sad. So if that's a trigger, like for sure don't read this book. A shipwreck washes up shore, and they find a baby that is still alive in the boat, and you can tell that the dad was there and he didn't make it. So they just have this baby and they decide to keep it and not report it and raise it as their own. And it's the story, like it's kind of the moral or ethics story of like what is best for the child, what is best legally, like the struggle of like the child thinks that their parents are these people at the lighthouse, but their real family is somewhere else. And it was just something I'd never read before, and I really enjoyed it, so I'd recommend it if that sounds good to you. I guess another author I would say is Nicholas Sparks, but I don't like love all of his books, but I love The Last Song, and so I can't help it but say that I love him as an author. But his books are like really sad, like A Walk to Remember, so sad but so good. And funny, my favorite ones / the ones that I've read have a lot of faith in them. Like The Last Song feels like a Christian fiction book, so maybe I shouldn't say that, but I've read A Walk to Remember. I read The Choice, didn't really like that. What else did I read? Okay, next, The Testament by John Grisham. This is not Christian fiction, but it sneakily is, which I love. So it's kind of, not really the topic of this video, but I can't help it. I love finding books that are like, that sneak it in there, and in such like a great way. So read The Testament, it's so good. Next, I would say Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, right? No, is that right? I forget the author, my bad. I just wrote down the name of it. So yeah, I read this and I really enjoyed it. It was just like, I wouldn't say it's nostalgic for me because like I didn't grow up in the 80s. I was not even born yet, but a lot of the things that he talked about, like I knew because I was born in the 90s and grew up through it in the early 2000s, and so it was just really fun to see all of the like video game references, and some of the things I wasn't familiar with, but a lot I was, and so that's what made it so fun. There probably was some language, but I don't remember anything like super bad. I heard Ready Player 2, is that the second book? I heard it's super bad, so I don't plan to read it. Okay, another author. Okay, I'm kind of just going all over the place, but Sophie Kinsella was also a secular author that I read quite a few of her books. She is like completely chick lit romance books, but they're usually very clean and very funny, but do have language. I think it's either Remember Me or Can You Keep a Secret. That's my favorite. But honestly, I think Remember Me is my favorite because it was so funny. I've also read I've Got Your Number. And then there's some that I've read that were super boring. So yeah, she's kind of, I feel like her best books were like her earlier ones, and now her newer ones like don't even sound interesting. So anyway, I'd recommend Remember Me, Can You Keep a Secret, and I've Got Your Number. I read The Undomestic Goddess and I found that one boring, so I wouldn't recommend that one, but yeah. Okay, the two books that I've read by Riley Sager I also really liked, but there's definitely swearing in these books. Lock Every Door and Home Before Dark. I just really liked the mysteries in both of those. They had to do with like buildings and houses, so I tend to like mysteries to do with that, I guess. But he definitely uses the F word. So there's that. But I did like the story enough to read it, so there's a little recommendation. Another kind of thriller one is Bring Me Back by B.A. Paris. This is a domestic thriller and it just got me so good. Like, I don't read thrillers, so I did not see the twist coming at all, and I was like, what? And I really liked the ending too, so it all just worked for me. Then Stephenie Meyer. Twilight is young adult, but The Chemist is adult, and I would definitely recommend it. I think this one is clean. I don't even think there was any language in it, but it was just like a fun story following like a CIA agent on the run with this kind of, well, with the set of twins actually, and there was dogs, and it was like just really cool to see the background of like what a chemist knows and stuff and what they can do. Okay, then I think this one is technically young adult, but I've never talked about it and I really want to talk about it. So it's Soundless by Richelle Mead. Maybe you guys will recognize the cover. It only was talked about and popular because this author wrote Vampire Academy, and she was super popular because of that, and then she released this standalone fantasy book that it didn't do very well as far as I'm aware, because people are just like, what is this? It's super weird, kind of boring, didn't like it. But I really liked it. So this follows a society where no one can hear anything. There's no sound. Like, no one talks, no one makes any noise of any kind because you can't hear it. So they all use sign language to communicate, and they write, I'm pretty sure. They write to each other. But I think mostly they sign. It was so interesting. So you follow this girl in a society like that. There's like, of course, secrets with the leadership in this community, and she ends up like on the outskirts of the community and something starts happening. And she knows a boy. Oh, right. Okay, they work in mines, I think. And because the miners can't hear, it's really dangerous because they can't hear when like rocks are falling to crush them, right? I think her family is part of the mines or something. So there's that going on. So there's like a lot of upheaval with that. And then, yeah, she like figures stuff out about what's going on. And it was like so cool. So for sure recommend it. It was totally clean and whatever. Like, I think there was romance, but it was like really mild. I think she meets a boy, but like nothing happens because it's all about this community, and it was really cool. So I would recommend it. I kind of want to read it again. Like, it was like really good. So yeah, I hope that worked out. Those are just some random like non-Christian fiction books that I have liked in the past. You know, of course, take all of these recommendations with a grain of salt. You know what you can handle reading, and I just wanted to make this video because I have so many Christian fiction recommendations that it'd be interesting to have, you know, a non-Christian or secular version of recommendations. So I would love, kind of based, I guess, on my criteria and like the types of books that I've shared, I would love some recommendations from you guys. If you have any secular fiction that you love, I'd love to hear, because I am always interested in finding quality non-Christian books. And yeah, so that is everything. Thank you so much for watching this video, you guys. Hope you're having a good day, and I'll see you next time. Bye. So yeah, and then I have also read but what is it called? Oh. I have it on hold at my library. So hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is okay.